Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about things to consider before switching careers or before switching roles in general. So a bit about me, I used to work in consulting at an MBA firm, and right now I work in a field called impact investing. If you don't know what impact investing is basically venture capital for impact. If you don't know what venture capital is, so imagine person A, that's me. Imagine I have a business idea that I want to start up, but I don't have the capital to start it up. What I can do is go to someone, person B, that has the money and be like, this is my idea, this is what I need to start up the idea. Can you invest in me? So let's say the person invests £20,000 for 5% of my company. What that means is the person now owns 5% of my company. So that's basically how venture capital works. Impact investing is a bit different. Impact investing is still investing in that business, but I have a lens of making impact. Now, impact is a word that I would say has been a bit overused, like globally. Like everybody, like I want to make impact. I want to make impact, right? But like most impact investing firms have specific metrics that they measure. So, for example, it could be climate impact. It could be, is this company mitigating some like greenhouse gas emissions? So for example, if it's a solar company, so if you're making like solar panels, for example, and then you're helping people replace fossil fuel with clean fuel, that could be your climate impact, right? So there's a wide variety of things. It could be social impact, right? Are you creating jobs for people? It could be environmental impact. So like different metrics of impact that most firms look into. That's just a brief overview just to explain what I mean when I say impact investing. So yeah, back to what I was saying. So when I considered like moving from consulting to impact investing, there were a couple of things that like went through my mind while making that decision. I just wanted to share that here today. So the first thing, spoiler alert, impact. So a bit of disclaimer first of all. In consulting, you also make impact, but it's a different kind of impact. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a different kind of impact. Usually, you're not as close to the beneficiary of like your solution or like of your work. So, for example, in consulting, typically you'll be working for a client, and that client maybe they want to improve their operational performance, and maybe in terms of like improving their operational performance, that can in turn now create more wealth or create more economic opportunities or create more product at a better price. Like there could be like further down the line impacts, but usually you're very far removed from that impact, except you're in a field called social impact within consulting. Then you might see the impact a bit more closely. So when I was moving from consulting, I wanted to be in a field where I could kind of see like the tangible benefits of my work. And when I looked around and I was just curious about like different fields, impact investing was one that stood out to me. So it stood out to me because in impact investing, if we invest in a company, say we invest in a company that is working in the agriculture space, for example, and maybe they're trying to make farmers a bit more climate resilient, for example, and let's say they're working with like drought resistant seeds or pest control, you can easily match this is the money that was invested and this is the impact that was made. I don't know if you are following, but that was just something I really considered when I was changing jobs. That was the first thing for me. And also do let me know if you want me to take a deeper dive into this impact investing field, because I just did a brief explainer here today. The second thing I also considered was transferable skills. There's this term that I've come across a lot recently, and it's called skill stacking. So what skill stacking means is that in your career or your career move or your career progress, you prioritize skills. So let's say you're learning new skills that can be easily used in different types of jobs, right? So for example, in this age of AI, prompt engineering, something that is like is becoming more prominent, right? How to write you write prompts that could get you better results, like with AI tools. So skill stacking was one thing that I really looked at in terms of moving jobs. So for example, at consulting, things that they really drill down into us was like problem solving, communication, like soft skills like that, but also hard skills like data analysis, data cleaning, the whole data angle, for example, was a skill that they really looked at. Also subject matter expertise was another thing that they really looked at. Excel skills, like Excel and you and Excel in consulting, they're like best friends, right? Just skills I was bringing in from consulting. But looking into my current field, skills I wanted to develop more on financial modeling, because when you're investing, you obviously will be looking at different types of businesses, right? So you need to sharpen your financial modeling skills. So I looked at, okay, I want to learn this skill, I want to do better here, I want to pick this up. Also being able to analyze different kind of businesses, knowing what good looks like. Obviously you won't always get it right, but at least knowing the kind of things to look out for in terms of like business analysis. Also being able to venture growth, helping businesses grow, like just different things, right? So I prioritized a role where I could bring in transferable skills from consulting, but I could also continue to build up different skills that could be used in different types of careers. So do you get the flow? So skill stacking is something that's also like very important when considering which career to go for. You don't want to choose a role that the skills you're learning isn't transferable somewhere else. Now obviously don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you should just be a generalist and just, even though there's an argument for that, but what I am saying is prioritize roles where the skills are easy transferable and you're building up on like a base, a foundation that you already have. And now the third thing that I also considered is growth potential. Now you can't underemphasize or overemphasize growth potential. So growth potential in terms of different things. So the first thing would be in terms of responsibilities. Would my responsibilities be able to grow? Like, can I see the career progression for this particular role that I'm going into? What does the next step look like? Or is it a dead end role where like there's no promotion or like progress available? Under growth potential too would also be financial. Now the caveat I'll put here is, in every role you should either be learning or earning. If you're in your early career, like when I say early career, like less than 5 years, like in your career after school, for example, I think you should definitely prioritize learning, right? Don't get me wrong, it's also good to get a role that pays well and pays the bills and everything, but also being able to prioritize like learning in your early career is like very, very important, because you don't want to be the very expensive hire few years down the line that there are no skills to back up like the money you're asking for, right? So I think that was one thing I also considered, but also definitely also considered like financial growth potential of your role. And I think the last thing would be exposure. Does your role allow you to be exposed to different stakeholders, different people, just being able to build your network? I think that's something I also really consider. So for example, the field that I am currently is very similar to consulting in terms of exposure, because as in consulting, you get to work with different clients, get to work with different stakeholders, and just because of that, you're building up your people skills, you're building up your network. Maybe you work with someone today and that person is in a setup tomorrow. Just different things. Impact investing is similar, because you're working with entrepreneurs, for example. You're speaking to other investors, other entrepreneurs, other people that are interested in that field. Basically, you're also being able to build your network. So those are the three things I considered when changing careers. So yeah, that's all I have to share today, and I hope this helped. Let me know what other topics you want me to speak about.
Okay, bloopers. Don't forget to like, share, comment, the whole shebang. Okay, thank you very much. See you next one. Bye.